Hello and welcome back to another video, and in today's video we have a question that needs answering. So basically there's this field here, which is what we call the second paddock. That there is the first paddock, that's where the two dry cows were, that's all grazed, and that there down there by the wood line, it'll be the third paddock because it's separated by drains and ditches and all that, like this side here. So the question is, should we graze this field or should we cut it for silage? Keeping in mind we are in the last week of September as I'm recording this video, so it is getting a little bit late for cutting silage and all that, so I don't know. But I think maybe late spring, early summer, before we let the cattle out, we shook bag manure on the first paddock there and on the second paddock. We spread nothing there on the third paddock, but what we spread on it was grazing bag manure, so bag manure for grazing pastures, for that sort of stuff. We spread, I think, maybe 3 bags in the first paddock, and then there was a small bit left over, so we topped it up and spread this paddock. So I think there was maybe 2 or 3 bags of grazing bag manure shook on this paddock here as well, which obviously isn't a lot. It's about, we'd say it's about a 3 acre field, 3 or 4 acre field. Obviously there's some patches where the grass is not too long, there's other patches where there's good solid grass. Now it has been here a while, so the grass is sort of leaning over, it's lying down and whatnot, but there's some good thick grass in it as well. I don't know what the boat will be like, but there's some nice grass in patches. So, you know, it's not bad. If we do cut it, obviously it'll be silage, and it'll be probably one of the first bits of bales or silage that we'd feed the cattle, because obviously it's a grazing field. Probably won't be the best of silage. Now there where the rushes are, we won't be baling that. Basically where the edge of the rushes is where we'd be cutting off. So like the first outer headland, it'd be somewhere here. You know, it's just avoiding them rushes at all costs. That field there will be grazed and then probably topped in springtime, because it is a soft spot, that section there, so it'll probably be spring or early summer before we can get that topped. But yeah, to cut, to graze or to cut, that is the question. What should we do? Like, the further into the field you go, the more thicker, longer grass there is. Now it's not going to be as thick and as long as a grass as if you shook proper silage bag manure on it, but there's enough for grass. You might get, let's see, with the grass that's in it now, about 3 acre field, you could get maybe 10 to 15 bales off it. Maybe 8 at the lowest. We'd say 10 bales, or maybe not even 10 bales, but you get something off it. You get something. We'll walk down this direction and we'll have a quick look at what it's saying. But you can see that you'll go into some areas and there's just good big long clumps of grass, and then you go into other areas where it's just more even level grass than anything else, but it's grass nonetheless. You can see there's another big just clump of grass there, but you know, it's not too bad. There's a couple of rushes here and there in it, as you can see. Not the best, but not a lot you can do about that. You could, as the rushes are getting a bit thicker here, you could cut off earlier and maybe start somewhere here and leave that bit down there, because there's just more rushes there than anything else. But if you let cattle into this, they'd probably trample more than they would graze, and then you could possibly strip graze them, but it's don't know, would it be easy to graze this field? Not graze, but strip graze this field. Don't know. If it was your field, what would you do? Would you graze it, or would you cut it and bale it? That's basically the question. But like, it's not bad grass. You know, it's not awfully bad. There's obviously a couple of rushes just dotted around the place, but look, there's nothing really you can do. I don't know. Like, maybe there isn't enough grass in it to cut it. Maybe you are just wasting your time cutting it. But, or maybe, you know, you might be better off just grazing it to cattle, and then they have that extra bit of field to graze. They'll be out longer. It's hard to know, because the ones that'll be here, currently we have the two first cows to calf. So the two first cows to calf, the two bigger calves. We have a black cow that isn't due until December time, and then we have the two dry cows that are just over beyond that hedge line over there. They're in that field, so they're basically the cows that will be going into this field, excluding the two dry cows, because we're hoping to have them sold by then. But basically, if we were to graze this field, those cows would be here, and the chances of us strip grazing it, little to none. If we were going grazing it, we'd be most likely just let them into all of it. Obviously we'd fence that bit off, and we let them into that bit last, after they graze this. But see here, there's a poor crop of grass. It's not awfully long. It's not awfully long in this section at all, but you know, it's not bad grass. It could make decent enough silage. It's not, you know, it's not awfully bad. So yeah, it's hard to know. Obviously there's areas where there's rushes where we'll just avoid. So here, well, if we do decide to cut it and mow it, we'd have the first headland, the outer headland, coming down here, avoiding that rush just there. So yeah, and then obviously down there where I showed you a minute ago, there's a clump of rushes down there. We'd obviously miss them and cut this side of them. But then in the middle of the field there is spots of rushes that you can't really avoid, unless you do mow it and then pick out the rushes that were mowed by hand, which is it's a nuisance that. But even if you do bale it, mow it, and there is rushes within the bale, the cattle won't eat the rushes. They'll just eat the silage and pick out the silage from the rushes. They just, you know, but whether the rushes would ruin the quality of the silage in the fermentation stage, I don't know. Probably wouldn't do a whole lot. And some of these are sprayed or weed licked. These ones here I think they were weed licked. So just a quick update on the farmyard situation with all the silage and stuff. We have a whole silage slab here covered in bales, and we also have a couple of bales here on the sand. So we also have to take into consideration how many bales we have in total here before we decide whether to cut that field for silage, or maybe just to graze it or strip graze it to whatever cattle we decide to put in there. So I went around and done a sort of a rough enough count of how many bales are on the silage slab, how many bales are on the sand. There's a couple of older bales there as well. So we'll just have a quick rundown of how many bales are here, what bales are what, when they were baled and all that, and how many bales are in total. And then we can sort of gear from that as well, whether or not should we or should we not cut that field for silage. So I have them all written here down on the phone as well. So here on the silage slab, so right here as you can see in front, we have 41 bales that were baled about 2 or 3 years ago. Now these bales are marked with a red dot, so it's that one, and a couple of ones up on top there as well. If I can find a bale with a red dot on it, here. So obviously any bale that has a red dot is basically the border, and then any bales behind that then. We don't have all them bales, older bales, marked with a red dot. So let's say maybe 2 or 3 bales in this direction there's a bales with a red dot going the whole way down. Then any bales this side of that bale with the red dot are the older bales, the bales that are about 2 or 3 years old. So we have about 41 bales that were baled about 2 or 3 years ago. Here on the silage slab, the bales, there's 124 bales here on the silage slab that were baled this year from our silage field. That also includes the ones here on the sand. They were also baled this year as well. So there's a mixture of bales there on the sand that were baled this year, and there's some of them here as well on the silage slab that were baled this year as well. So 124 bales that were baled this year are here on the silage slab, and then there's 24 bales over on the sand that were baled this year as well. Obviously the 124 bales here were baled on the same day and from the same field as those bales there on the sand. The only reason those bales are on the sand is because just a bit of room, we couldn't store them all on the silage slab itself. So we could say this bale has a red dot here, so we could say that bale doesn't either, so that could be a fairly fresh bale. So we'd say from the bottom line, this bale the whole way down that direction and where it ends over there, all that is all this year's bales. So yeah, and any bale that's on from this red dot this direction are all the older bales, which you can see we've used a couple of them already. But yeah, we have obviously 24 on the sand, so in total between the 41 bales on the silage slab that were baled 2 or 3 years ago, the 124 bales on the silage slab that were baled this year, and the 24 bales on the sand here that were baled this year as well, taking all them into consideration, we have a grand total of about 189, 190. Obviously I didn't count them 100%, it was just a rough sort of count, so I could have counted them wrong. I could have missed a couple of them while I was counting, or I could have maybe added a couple on, but roughly speaking, roughly counting, we have 190 bales in total. So we have to take that into consideration as well. Where are we going to store these bales if we do decide to cut that? We can come out a bit here, but the furthest we'd probably come out is either to this bale here, so we won't be going any further out than there, or this bale over here. We won't be going any further out than that bale there, mainly because room for backing out tractors and parking them in this shed here. Obviously with the toppers on the International now, but once the bale splitter goes on, the bale splitter is obviously slightly smaller than the topper. The bale splitter would probably come to here in size. So when we do back the tractor out, we need enough room to back out and swing around. no matter what implement is on the tractor, big or small, we still need to have this room here. So we can't be bringing bales out this direction too far. So yeah, we also have to take into consideration that as well when we're deciding what to do with that field as well. We'd have a look at the rushes, the clumps of rushes that are dotted in the middle of the field, just to see, are they fresh rushes, are they alive, or were they sprayed or weed licked? And we can take it from there. If they're fresh, you know, they might upset the silage in some way, but if they're sprayed and sort of withered away, they mightn't affect the silage too much if we do decide to cut it. That rush there seems to be fairly alive. That's a fresh rush, that wasn't touched. I think it was only that clump down there in that field just there that was weed licked. So either weed licked or sprayed, but they did get something on them to change their colour. That one is also a fairly alive and fresh one, excuse me. Don't know what that is. I think that's just a lump of grass growing over a rush. And then there's this one here, which is, there's some browny ones in there, but there's some green rushes in there as well. So we take it as those couple of rushes in the middle of the field that will be mowed, if we do mow it, are fairly fresh rushes. They weren't, and maybe they were sprayed or weed licked over a year ago, but nothing done with them since. But if we graze this field, we let the cows into it, they'll graze it. Once it's grazed, we'd come in with the tractor and the topper and just top all the rushes, and any sort of grass that's sticking up that the cows didn't eat, we'd top all that. Obviously if we cut it, there's no need to top it, there'd be nothing to top. So, and obviously we'd avoid these clumps of rushes at all costs as well. You won't be able to cut the whole field down this side anyways because of the rushes, but be nice to hear your opinion. What would you say? Here now, not a lot of grass, and that's the but not a whole lot of grass there. That's probably like enough grass there to graze, but more here is nice longer grass. But anyways, it'd be nice to hear your opinion. What would you do? Some areas of this field, good long lush grass. Other areas, fairly poor crop of grass. So would you cut it and bale it, or would you graze it? Couple of rushes in the middle of the field, about only 3 or 4 of them. About a 3-acre field. Here is a nice bit of lush lumps of grass. But yeah, what would you do? Cut or graze? That is the question. Cut or graze? But anyways, that's it. Obviously, you see, we're sort of torn. We're sort of torn on what to do. We would be leaning more towards maybe grazing it. Maybe a couple of weeks ago we were leaning more towards cutting it, back in the height of maybe first cut silage or second cut silage. But since all that, you know, second cut silage is now over or on the way out at this point, we're leaning more towards grazing it at this point. But obviously it's still not too late to cut it for silage, because we were baling silage last year in October. So yeah, anyways, please leave down in the comment sections what would you do and what do you think. But for that, it is going to be the end of today's video, so thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my merch, the link to that will be down in the description, and I'll see ya in my next video very soon. Take care.